Well, this morning in addition to the cicada, we got the crickets chirping. That means it must be fall. My brush pile over here for the city to pick up as waste has always bothered me because in other houses where we've lived, we've had chippers and we would use a lot of this stuff. If you saw my video on tips and tricks to save time and money, one of the things that I mentioned was to use everything from the yard that you can. So we try to use all of the leaves from the bushes and trees that we trim. But we haven't been able to use these small branches to chip them up and use them like we've been able to in other places. However, just last week, the boss of the house bought me a new toy, and I'm really excited. Here is my new toy. It's an electric chipper shredder. In the past, we've had ones that were more powerful, larger, that could take much larger branches and that were gas-powered so they could go anywhere. So this is definitely a smaller, less powerful version than we've had, but it's definitely better than nothing. I'm really excited to give this a try. So I'm going to go through and see how much of this pile I can chip into mulch for my garden. And here it is assembled. So now I'm going to plug in the cord. Okay, we're ready to give it a try. So now, when I go back over to the pile that I used to have, this is all that's left. These were the logs that were either too big, the squash that I don't want to chop up because of the various bugs and grubs and things like that. I definitely don't want that chipped up into my garden. And then there were a few branches that when I cut them, since I didn't know I was going to be chipping, I left joints that were just too hard to get into the chipper. So now, what used to be a big pile is substantially less. I feel good about not sending so much to the landfill. And this is what that pile turned into. Now, I have to say, the gas-powered ones I've had in the past did a much better job of chipping into small pieces. All of these twigs didn't actually chop any farther than this. They're this big, so I'm probably not going to use this in compost, but it's still perfectly good for mulch. If I put this around the plants or in the walkways, it will decompose and feed the plants, and it will keep weeds from coming up. Our first plan is to put this batch in the bottom of our raised bed. We're going to start a raised bed for the fall greens, and so we're going to put this in the bottom. So the fact that this is not chopped up won't hurt it. I'm a little disappointed that this was as fine as it got. It did really well on the bigger branches. You can see that this is pretty fine. So the big branches, it chopped up pretty well. It was the small twigs that didn't do well. Well, it looks like we made it just before the rain, and I wanted to see about how much actual chipping that I got, because it's hard to tell when it's on the tarp. So I put it in the buckets, and I've got basically 6 buckets of chip from that pile. Okay. Most of them are this thin or the small stuff.
Right.
There's actually about 1 bucket of the bigger stuff. I did run over it with a lawnmower, and this is what the result was. It's actually not 2 buckets because both
well,
buckets.
I would definitely put that one in first.
Okay. And so what we're going to do is you want to put it over here in our first raised bed. I feel a few drops.
Yeah, it'll be good for the stuff to get wet.
Okay, you want another bucket?
How many is that?
That is 2 buckets. So instead of that pile of old stuff, I tried some new stuff and found it worked better than I imagined. So I decided before I would write my review that I would go ahead and show you just a quick run through of about 5 large branches. I have some from 1/2 inch all the way up to a good inch, and the chipper is supposed to handle up to, I think, 1 1/4 inches. So these are very close to what it says is its limit, and these branches are far taller than me. They're about 8 to 10 feet tall, some of them. And if it performs this time like it did for me before, you'll see why now I think I am sold on this chipper. So watch and see. So I've changed from a it's okay to a I'm happy with this purchase. You can see that when I chop up the things that I intend to chop up, it's very fine. It's a good mixture of the green leaves and the wooden stems. This is perfect compost and mulch for my garden. This is exactly what I want. It's easy to use, easy to turn on. It chops up fast. It took some of the biggest branches. I'm overall very pleased. In about 5 minutes, I got 4 buckets of mulch from the limbs that I had cut. This chipper, not as good as the gas-powered ones I've had in the past, but it also was far less expensive. I bought this at Harbor Freight, and after the coupons and the sale, it was right around $100. For $100, it's probably worth it. If I were going to pay more than that, or if I were going to keep the chipper for, multiple years, or plan to have it as a long-term thing, I would probably invest in a more expensive, heavier duty one. But for right now, I think this will do it. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.